Well, we're doing some scale work again. So, like I said, Prime USA Scales has been so wonderful to work with, and like we're not paid by them or anything like that. I honestly am just amazed at how easily they helped us overcome our fears of how to set up a scale, how to build a scale, all these other things, right? And so you've seen us put scale or a scale system on our manure spreader that was never meant to be. You've seen us made a portable scale from one of their systems. Well, we bought one more of them because we just poured this slab of concrete right here and a little ramp on it. We've had a cage scale for cattle for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. Like, it's been a long time that we've had this. And we haven't done anything with it because we didn't know how to do the scales. We didn't know how, and everywhere you call around, they're like, oh, you gotta have this, you gotta have that. And they make it sound so complicated that we're like, you know what, maybe it's just not for us. So we have a solution for that. This is the cage that we've had for a scale for a few years, like I said. I don't remember, like it's been that long since we got it. And it came and it had some old junky scales on, or load cells on it. The wires were ripped up on them, cut. The monitor was missing, all this other stuff. Well, we've cut those off, or sorry, taken those off. We've got the bolts and everything. We are simply gonna mount those up and get this set in place. And then we're gonna go through the calibration process and all that other good stuff. So this is the scale that we're gonna make. So obviously this one's substantially larger than the portable one that we made, but still quite a bit smaller than the other one that we've made for our manure spreader. Our manure spreader is capable of 60,000 pounds with this scale system, mainly because of how we had to place the load cells. This is gonna be set up for 10,000 pounds. I'm gonna give you a real dumbed down version of how all this works. So this is our monitor or head unit, whatever you wanna call this thing, right? This is what's gonna take it and convert it all into pounds or kilograms, whatever you want to weigh in. This wire right here is going to connect to there and then connects into this box. This box, all 4 of these load cells wire into it. And as I mentioned, that scale is going to take all those electrical inputs, convert them into pounds. After we calibrate it, of course, it'll be accurate, but it'll do it regardless whether it's accurate or not. When you're calibrating it, you need to calibrate it with about 10% of what you intend to weigh on it. So if you want to weigh, let's say 10,000 pounds like this is rated for, you need to take 1,000 pounds and calibrate it by putting the 1,000 pounds in here. And then from there, once you do that, this will actually be accurate from there on. Also gives you the option for the head unit. You can run it with batteries or you can run it with power if you have 120 volt power nearby. Got all kinds of options as far as powering it. I like the battery option because, as you've seen over there, we just don't have a lot of electricity options over there. All right, so we went ahead and threaded this leg down. We're gonna tighten that up here in a little while. First, we wanna just get it below there because whenever we mount this is a flat piece of metal. We don't want it to touch any part of it. We want it to be below that. And we're actually gonna use this spacer to put between it. And that spacer is gonna make it to where there's a gap between the block, the top of this block, and the metal. That way it gives it a chance to flex. The flexing that happens inside this load cell is what ends up giving us our weight, or the electrical reading that is converted into weight. So pretty simple to put these on. These ones are already, so as mentioned, this already had old load cells on it, and they actually drilled and tapped holes for us already. But that means that I have to use the old bolts, or at least buy new ones that match it. These bolts are all fine. They're just a little cruddy looking, but they're actually solid and everything. However, these do come with brand new mounting hardware, and I would suggest using that if you can. So put that on. It's just that simple. We're going to set that in there, thread that in a little bit, and then we're going to put our other one in. And that's it. We'll tighten those up. This is a pretty good angle to show you what I was talking about. So this spacer right here, that is on there so that when we tighten this up, there's going to be a gap between the top of here, because again, this needs to be able to push up without touching and actually making, I know it's not going to actually flex the bar a lot, but if it was against something, it wouldn't flex at all and we wouldn't get an accurate reading. So now once it's all tightened up, see how there's a gap there and we don't have to worry about it touching. And then of course, once we set it down, I'll show you again. It's going to flex a little bit, but not as much as what you're thinking. So you can see that we have all of our load cells mounted on the corners. Also notice that we have the leg. So the leg for each one is always going to the outside of this scale system. just for stability purposes. You can do it either way. We just did it like that for stability. The other thing is that we also ran our wires across right there to that corner. That way, if we ever get in here to lift it, notice that we aren't gonna catch our cable with the forks. And then on this side, we did something similar. We just drilled a couple of holes in order to weave this wire back and forth until it gets all the way to the corner, and then they all come up right here. And then from there, they're just gonna run up here, and this is where we're gonna mount the junction box, and then our actual display is gonna be a little higher up. I still have the plastic on this, but when it comes to mounting your screen, right, wherever you're comfortable with, it could be up above you, it could be down below you, doesn't matter. You can tilt this up and down. Obviously, you're not gonna be able to tilt it side to side, but you can also make this to where you take it off. Pretty simple, you know, whatever works for you as far as that goes. Just make sure that wherever you mount it, you have a way to be able to run the cable to it for the one that connects you to all the load cells. So everything is labeled on here, DC power. This would be for like if you're gonna connect a printer. This is where you connect to your load cells, and this is for your battery power if you're not going to use DC power. Now, we're not going to use DC power, mainly because if you look around, there's not any power source that's close enough. The closest power is actually over there, and it's just not worth it. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the load cell junction box, just as it sounds. This is a junction box where all the load cells inputs come into one, and then they're going to go out into one cable up to our monitor. Now, I like to do it like this. So however I have this oriented, so let's say I orient it like this. If I orient it like this, then load cell 1 is going to be right over here. Load cell 2 will be the one right here in front of me. Load cell 3 would be that back corner, and load cell 4 would be that one. But if I rotate it this way, now I'd have load cell 1 is my far corner. Load cell 2 is my next farthest corner back here behind me. And then load cell 3 would be that one right there, and then load cell 4. Doesn't really matter, but if you know which load cell is which, it just makes it simpler. If you do have an issue later down the road, you can unplug that specific one, swap it out, and you're good to go. And then of course our output is going to come out and go straight in. Another thing is that this specific way station is going to be outside for its whole life. It's never going to be indoors or undercover. So I would not recommend mounting it like this because, again, these are waterproof connections, but now you're making it to where water can pool up there. Each one of your load cells is going to come with a paper that looks just like this. And this paper, the top part, probably not important to you because it's a bunch of gibberish that you may not understand. But this bottom part is very important. This is going to tell us what color is what on the label for the junction box. With all the wiring complete, now we're just going to get right into our calibrating our scale. Now, if you're going to calibrate it, don't watch this video do that. Go to the US Measurements one. They have one that is way better and it walks you through it really quick. They don't dilly-dally around, so check that one out. We're going to calibrate ours with 940 pounds. Yes, it's 10,000 pound capacity, but that's what we have for weights. We're just using tractor weights. All right, go ahead and throw that weight back on there. No, I forgot to hit record. Perfect. Still 94. We're good. All right, calibration works. And just like that, we went from this scale that essentially was useless to a functioning one that we can weigh our calves with now. As mentioned, I don't know exactly how much it was that we were quoted before when we talked to some companies nearby, but they made it sound like it was a super difficult task to change load cells and to use different ones and all this other stuff. And like I said, Prime USA scales, when I've talked to them, because the manure spreader is a prime example. I added scales to our manure spreader that was never designed to have them to begin with. Added them to it with their help because they explained to me, hey, this is how the load cells have to go, this is how they need to be placed, something of this nature, and guided me through the whole process versus be like, no, it's just going to cost you 10 grand or something like that, and you know, you got to hire a guy or anything like that. They made it so simple for us to be able to do this. This is actually why we've used them for the 3rd scale for our farm. So this one obviously is to weigh calves and stuff, or even full-size cows and heifers and bulls in a chute. So they'll come through here. We haven't finished up the rest of it yet, but essentially they'll come through right here, and then they're actually going to come out on this side. We have that post right there in the wrong spot, so we'll have to cut that out. Minor mistakes. But this will be finished up, and then we'll be able to run cattle through here in general to weigh batches of them and get an idea of what they weigh prior to selling them. Or if we're just curious of what they're gaining, we can check weekly progress, stuff like that. Especially when we have ones like this that are up here being doctored, or other situations where they're away from mom. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, if you got to talk about somebody, talk to God about them.